You walk into someone's house, and something stops you. Not the furniture, not the decor, just the fact that it's spotless. Not because company is coming, not because they spent the whole weekend scrubbing, just because it always looks like that. And you find yourself wondering, what is different about these people? Are they just more disciplined? Do they have more time? Do they actually enjoy cleaning more than the rest of us? Here is what the science actually says. These people are not just tidier, they are neurologically, psychologically operating from a completely different mental framework. And once you understand what that framework is, you will never look at a clean home the same way again. Because a clean home is not really about a clean home. It is about the state of your mind, the structure of your identity, and the relationship you have with your own environment. And if you have ever walked into a messy room and felt your chest tighten, your focus scatter, or your mood quietly drop without understanding why, then what you are about to hear might change how you see your space forever. Let us start with something your brain is doing right now without your permission. There is a concept in environmental psychology called cognitive load. It is the total amount of mental effort your brain is using at any given moment. And here is what decades of research have shown. Physical clutter competes for your attention even when you are not consciously looking at it. Every stack of unread mail, every dish left in the sink, every pile of clothes draped over a chair, your brain registers all of it as unfinished business. An unfinished business is mentally expensive. A study conducted at Princeton University found that physical clutter in your surroundings interferes with your ability to focus. It overloads your visual cortex and impairs how efficiently your brain processes information. Your messy room is not just annoying. It is literally making you less sharp, less calm, and more mentally drained. But here is where it gets interesting. Flip that around. When your environment is clean and ordered, your brain gets to relax. That is why people who maintain their homes every day tend to think more clearly. They are calmer, more focused. Their space works for them instead of quietly working against them. Now, here is something deeper that most people miss entirely. When we talk about someone who cleans every single day, we are not really talking about a person who loves scrubbing counters. Be honest, who actually enjoys that. We are talking about someone who has figured out, consciously or not, that controlling their environment is one of the most reliable ways to maintain a sense of control over their life. Think about everything you cannot control on any given day. The economy, traffic, what someone says to you at work, the outcome of things you have already done. Most of life sits completely outside your hands. And for a lot of people, that unpredictability creates a low, constant hum of anxiety that never fully disappears. But your home? That you can control. Whether the counter is wiped down, whether the bed is made, whether the dishes are washed before they pile up, those things are entirely yours. And every time you act on your environment and restore it to order, you send a signal to your nervous system. A signal that says, I am in charge here. I can handle things. Everything is okay. In psychology, this connects to something called the locus of control. People who have a strong internal locus of control, meaning they genuinely believe their actions influence their outcomes, experience less anxiety, more motivation, and greater resilience overall. And one of the simplest ways to reinforce that internal sense of agency every single day is to take ownership of the space around you. It costs nothing, it takes minutes, and the effect on how you feel is real. But here is the thing, and this is where it goes even deeper than most conversations about cleaning ever go. The people who do this consistently are not doing it primarily because they love the act of cleaning. Most of them would tell you they do not. They do it because somewhere along the way, through repetition, through seeing the results, through showing up for themselves in this small but consistent way, they built something, an identity. They became the type of person who keeps a clean home. And once that becomes part of what you believe yourself to be, the behavior becomes almost automatic. Behavioral psychology is clear on this. We act in alignment with who we believe we are. If you believe you are a disorganized person, a messy person, someone who just cannot keep things together, your behavior will reflect that belief every single time. But identity is not fixed. Identity is built through evidence, and evidence comes from your actions. Every time you wipe down the table after dinner, you are adding a data point. Every time you make the bed, you are reinforcing the quiet belief that you are someone who follows through on small commitments to yourself. Do that enough times, and your brain has no choice but to update its picture of who you are. Psychologists call this identity-based habit formation, rooted in cognitive dissonance research. Repeated actions shape your self-concept, and once a behavior becomes part of who you are, it stops requiring effort. It just becomes what you do. And here is what nobody tells you about the morning. Right after you wake up, your brain is in a uniquely receptive state. Cortisol, your primary stress hormone, naturally spikes in the early hours. But that spike is not just stress. It creates a neurological window for focus and neuroplasticity. Your brain is literally more capable of rewiring itself in the morning than at almost any other point in the day. So what happens when the very first act of your day is to make the bed or wipe down the kitchen counter? You are doing several things simultaneously. You are using that neurological window to reinforce a behavior that will eventually become automatic. You are generating what psychologists call a completion loop. Your brain receives a small but genuinely powerful dopamine release when it finishes a task and sees the result. A made bed, a clean sink, a cleared surface. These are visible markers of completed action, and they feel good. Third, and this is the part that compounds, you are building momentum. One completed task makes the next one feel easier, and by the end of the day, that single morning action has quietly multiplied into something larger than itself. Now I want to be honest with you, because some of you listening right now are thinking, I have always been messy. My space has always been chaotic. That is just who I am. I hear that. But here is what I want you to hear back. Your clutter is not neutral. It is almost always either a symptom or a cause of something happening internally. When life feels out of control, people's environments tend to reflect that. When someone is moving through a period of depression or deep stress, their space is often the first thing to deteriorate. The mess on the outside mirrors the state on the inside. Research published in the Personality and Social Psychology Bulletin found that people who described their homes as cluttered had significantly higher levels of cortisol throughout the day compared to people who described their homes as restful. The state of your space is not just aesthetic. It is actively affecting your baseline stress level every hour you spend in it. Stay with me, because what I am about to say is the part most people get completely wrong. People who clean every day are not more disciplined than you. They have not somehow unlocked a level of willpower that you have not reached. That framing is wrong. And it matters that you stop thinking that way. What you are watching when you see someone with a consistently clean home is not discipline. You are watching a system. You are watching automation. You are watching a habit that has become as effortless and natural as brushing their teeth before bed. Discipline is a limited resource. You can exhaust it. Most of us have experienced being intensely strict with ourselves in one area only to collapse completely in another because the mental energy ran out. Automation does not work that way. Automation sustains itself. A 2009 study published in the European Journal of Social Psychology found that it takes an average of 66 days for a new behavior to become automatic, to shift from something you have to consciously choose to something your brain simply does on its own. The goal is not to force yourself to maintain your space for the rest of your life. The goal is to do it consistently enough that it stops being something you force. That transition is everything, and here is a layer of this that does not get nearly enough attention. There is something sensory happening in a clean environment that goes beyond the cognitive. Think about what it physically feels like to walk into an ordered room. The visual clarity, the open space, the absence of that low-level noise that clutter constantly produces. Something about a clean, ordered environment communicates safety to your nervous system. It signals that things are handled, that everything is okay, that you can rest now. For people who are highly sensitive to their surroundings, this effect is even more pronounced. If you have ever walked into a messy space and felt your anxiety rise, or stepped into a clean, minimal room and felt something inside you exhale, that is your nervous system responding to environmental input. And for those people, maintaining a clean space is not just a preference. It is a form of mental health maintenance. There is a reason why hospitals, meditation centers, and high-end spaces designed for healing are obsessively ordered. It is not purely aesthetic, it is neurological. A clean environment actively supports your brain's ability to regulate, recover, and come back to itself after the demands of the day. Here is something I find genuinely fascinating. When people clean, they are often doing far more than cleaning the physical space. There is a reason why so many people reach for a broom or a sponge when they are stressed, anxious, or emotionally overwhelmed. Has that ever been you? Irritable, unsettled, and suddenly rearranging something. The act of cleaning, its rhythm, its physicality, its immediate and visible results, is one of the most effective forms of what psychologists call behavioral activation, using physical action to shift your emotional state. When you are anxious and sitting still, your nervous system stays activated. When you get up and do something with a clear beginning and a clear end, you give your brain a way to discharge that stored energy through action. The dishes get done, and something inside you settles. The external process mirrors and supports the internal one. So how do you actually begin building this if it is not already part of your life? The single most important shift is this: never let it accumulate. The people who find maintenance effortless are the ones who catch things small. Wipe the counter right after cooking. Wash the dishes right after eating. Put things back immediately after using them. When the mess never gets the chance to build, the upkeep required is minimal. You are not cleaning anymore, you are simply maintaining. Attach it to something already in your day. This is what behavioral scientists call habit stacking. You already make coffee in the morning, so wipe the counter while it brews. You already brush your teeth at night, so clean the sink right after. You are not building a new habit from scratch. You are extending one that already exists and make it something you actually want to do. This sounds simple, but it is where most people go wrong. If cleaning feels like punishment, your brain will avoid it. Put on music you love, make yourself a drink, turn it into a ritual that belongs to you rather than a chore that is being done to you. Here is what I want to leave you with. Your home is not just where you live. It is a physical expression of what you believe you deserve. And most people have never consciously thought about that, even though it is operating on them constantly. When you begin taking care of your space, you are sending yourself a message: I live here. This matters. I matter. You are not broken if your space is messy right now. You are not lazy. You are not a disorganized person beyond change. You are just someone who has not yet built this particular habit into your identity. And identity, as we have established, is built one repeated action at a time. If this hit home for you, please subscribe. There is more to explore about how your environment shapes your mind in ways most people never realize. I will see you in the next one.